though, because I have been meaning to like call you on the phone at some point because I just like I've been screwing around with back when we were over there in March, like screwing around with some of the stuff like we talked about, and it is like going way better than I ever thought it could have.
Awesome.
Yeah, like some of the stuff about like getting horses to like stop better and turn better and things like that. Like,
awesome.
Yeah, it's so funny because this past weekend, like I rode I rode in one of Buck's clinics.
Oh yeah.
And I think going to clinics is like really helpful and really important. But it's funny how sometimes if you just like get around people you don't ride with very often and just like spend several days in a row just like being around them, like that can be really, really helpful too.
Yeah.
You know, even though it's not like a formal teaching thing, it just kind of like those conversations like get the wheels spinning a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anybody that, is kind of on the same trajectory as you that is working towards similar goal and maybe is even in similar experience, as you, but we all think differently and we all have different things that we're focused on in this point in time. And so I definitely think that's helpful. Just gets your gears turning and yeah, so absolutely. I mean, clinics are awesome, but getting together with your friends that just sharing ideas and things that you've been working on or something that you've been struggling with. Absolutely. I love doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the other cool thing about it too, maybe I fall into this rut, maybe because it's like I spent too much time like going to school to be an engineer and something. But like, so I'm very like process oriented. But a lot of times if I get around like quote unquote clinicians or experts, I can get too involved from like a horse perspective, at least too involved in just like trying to learn that process. And I mean like learning how to apply the process, but not necessarily understanding the process. Right? So, yeah. And the cool thing about when you're hanging out with people is there's not that like you go and ride with a lot of clinicians. Doesn't really matter the discipline. Like at some point there'll be a conversation of like, put your leg here or do this or set your horse up this way. Right. And I think that for me, my brain, I like fixate on that. And it's like a big thing for me probably in the last year is like put more responsibility on the horse, and the only way you can do that is to like actually teach them things instead of like just manipulating them.
Absolutely. That is so tough, I think, for us as people to give more responsibility to the horse. Like I know I still do it and I'm conscious of it and I try to give them more responsibility. Like I'm going to ask for this and then you need to do it. But then I can still catch myself like I'm making this happen. They're doing it because I'm shaping it up and I'm asking for it. But if I were to just like ask and then see what happened, they're just going to wait for me to make them do it, and it's light. It doesn't take a lot. It's not like I'm pulling them around, but, yeah, I think that's a very human thing for us to just not be able to let go of control. And, even when it's so finite and it's light and there's a feel behind it, it's still like, how about you just ask and then see what the horse does?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, have you heard of a guy named Gene Armstrong?
I don't think so.
Well, shameless plug. He's been on our podcast. He
you only have 1 million episodes.
I know. So, but the reason I bring it up is he recently did like a seminar with like eclectic horsemen. He's like a California guy, and worked, I guess he taught like the farrier school and like the colt starting classes at UC Santa Barbara. It's one of the UCs. I think it's that one. And so just like a really interesting guy, older, spent some time around the Dorances and like I think Joe Walter and Brian Newbert, like when those guys were in California and stuff. And I think he might have, I don't know exactly the connection there, but I think he might have, when Nick Dowers was in college, like taught him a little bit. That's how I met him, was through Nick Dowers. But anyway, so Gene's a really interesting guy and definitely like beats to his own drum, so to speak. You know, kind of maybe like a little quirky. Like if you're gonna listen to him talk, you got to really like hang in there. It's like, I know this is like good information, but it's not gonna be exactly like bulleted out. But a cool thing, it was literally just like a clip on Facebook or something that Eclectic Horseman put out, and he was talking in that seminar. And he said, well, one thing we know for sure, horses really like freedom. And people really like control.
Yeah.
And he said, so I'm always trying to figure out how do we set this up, especially in the beginning, that they have a level of freedom where they're comfortable and happy. And I'm paraphrasing. And then, you know, over time, as you build rapport, like you will get more control, you know, and because I don't think like control is a bad thing. If you thought control is a bad thing, just like be a saddle bronc rider or something, right?
Yeah.
But trying to control from the very beginning. So I've been like really cognizant of that ever since I've heard that. And at least for me, I guess it was like the right thing at the right time, because the colts I'm starting right now feel like as a collective feel way better than the colts I've been starting prior to this, because I'm trying just to let them be a little more free. And I feel like part of that, it's not like a physical freedom that like, you know, you don't have to like old school Ray hunt it and like take the halter off and climb on necessarily to like offer that freedom. Like part of freedom is like they get choices.
Yeah. Right? And I think like what you're talking about, like just being so focused, dialed in on like what physically, like what steps do I need to take? That's like not exactly how horses think, you know? They're a lot more like they already know how to move their body. They already know how to do those things, and they're very sensitive feeling creature. And so it sounds like just tapping into like, how can I offer this up in a way that they can find it without being like, okay, I need to do this, then I need to do this, then I need to do this. Can just be maybe a little more, feel like a little less busy, a little more space for them to sort through things and be free mentally.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, because that was another conclusion I feel like I've come to recently. I think it's really important to understand horse biomechanics. Like if you're going to be a horseman, you need to understand how you want things to shape up.
For sure.
But also, and I don't know, I guess it'd be interesting to talk to them, but we can't. But unless you're, you know, a Tom Dorrance or a Ray Hunt, right? It's a little presumptuous of you to say, okay, I'm going to control every footstep of this horse. Now, I don't mean like there's still principles like get to the feet and things like that, where you want to connect the feet to the reins, and like people in the horsemanship world, like you hear that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
But it's a little presumptuous to be like, okay, now let me drive and I'm going to operate your body better than you can operate your body.
Absolutely.
And again, maybe it's just the engineering brain, but I definitely have like tried to do that for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And so it's been hard, but when I do let go of that, and it's not like I want this foot here and this foot here or this foot here, it's like I want you to turn around 180 degrees and then we're going to go that way.
Yeah.
And like over time, you'll figure out the best way to do that because you're the one in your own skin.
Exactly. And they're going to find, the most, athletic way, the most correct way to do that, because they're, like you say, they want peace. They want what's easy for them to do, and, not stepping on themselves and getting their feet out of the way and preparing is going to be the best way to do that. For sure. Yeah. You're funny. You remind me of my best friend. She's like very analytical minded too, and she loves to pick things apart, and she's like so smart, and I envy her in that like we're like yin and yang, because I'm just like, I don't know, I just go and work on this and do this, and it just feels like that's what needs to happen. And she's like, but why? Like, I want to know why. Or I'll be like, no, this horse, I just like feel like it needs this, whether it's like a diet thing or something. And she's like, wants to know all the steps, like what's in it, what's this, I don't know. So I definitely think that there's some kind of balance in the middle, you know. You gotta be able to think deeply about things and pick apart why this is working and what do I need to do. And then there's also a lot of feel too that's just like, I'm just going to try this because it feels right.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the book Psycho-Cybernetics?
Mm-mm.
I'm pretty sure Buck told people at a clinic to read it. But anyway, I went and read this book, and oh my gosh, it is like one of the dullest books I have ever read. Like it is not entertaining. But it's super interesting. And one of the general premises that I picked up is basically like our brain, like our whole brain is like a pretty amazing supercomputer. Yeah. Right? And you know how they'll say people have like shower moments or whatever, right? It's like you haven't figured something out, and then you're like in the shower, like doing your deal, and then all of a sudden you're like, aha, that's it. That's what I need to, like, why didn't I think of that, right? And basically one of the premises of this book was, you know, you need to define like how this guy thought your brain should work, especially if you're like an athlete or some sort of problem solver, you know, working with horses. And it's like, okay, I need to get this done. And you just like really intentionally think about like, okay, I want to get this done and really define the goal. And then you like just go away and like don't, like you almost, like you said, don't think about it too much. Don't like keep it all up in your frontal lobe for too long. And then you can come back to it and you don't realize it, but your brain's been like sorting that out in the background.
That's amazing.
But like people could interpret that, at least the way I did, is like, oh, that's feel. It's like a gut feeling and intuition, right? And it's like, well, really, like your brain's been thinking about this, but it hasn't been like your internal monologue necessarily.
It's subconscious. Yeah. Your subconscious is, I mean, the frontal part of your brain, your conscious is like such a small part of what's actually going on in your brain, for sure. Right.
And the example he used was like basketball players, like you could practice free throws, and then they had like another group just like visualize the perfect free throw. And they did this over like 3 months. And the group that like visualized the perfect free throw, they were like comparable and in some cases improved more.
Yeah.
Right? Because they were just like, I'm just thinking about this. And then in the background, your body's like, okay, how am I going to make that ball go into the hoop and like do all this?
Yeah.
Which kind of goes back to like what we were just talking about with horses, right? It's like, oh, okay, I understand that the person on my back is telling me like turn around 180 degrees. And then maybe you turn them out in the pasture and they're like la-di-da-di-da, but maybe in the background of their brain, they're like, how am I going to turn around better next time so-and-so tells me to turn around?
And how often I've heard everybody that I know that's ridden horses like talk about colts, you know, and you get them going, maybe they're 2 and you're not going to ride them for here on out, but you're going to get them started. They turn them out after they've got, 30 rides, 20 rides or whatever, and you get them back and it's like, oh my gosh, they're even better than what I left them. Like, well, just like you're talking about, they're soaking on some good stuff if you put them up in a good place. And it seems like they've worked on it without you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe there's something to that, but it, again, I don't know. Maybe there's like a Spark Notes or something out there. It is like a battle of a book to get through, but it's some pretty interesting concepts.
Yeah, that kind of stuff really interests me, like how the brain works. But yeah, if it's too dry, I might fall asleep.
Yeah. It's funny. I was teaching a lesson today. There's a girl here who goes to Virginia Tech that's ridden with Kaylee some, and now she's taken like some groundwork lessons with me because she's just never been exposed to that kind of stuff. But she has been really interesting to talk to because she's a neuroscience major. And so, like, you know, it'll be like, we got my dad's 2-year-old out today. And I was like, all right, this guy, I haven't messed with him, you know, since we halter broke him a year ago, whatever, when he got him. And so I was like, well, this is how we're going to teach him to back up on the end of the lead rope and do this and do that. I'm like, okay. And then right there, like, you stop. And like, this is the most important part. We just let him like think about it and sort it out. And he does the whole deal, like drops his pole, kind of shakes his head, you know, yawns and stuff. And she's like going on and on about like what she feels like is maybe happening with his brain chemistry. And, you know, I'm a self-proclaimed overthinker, but I've never thought about it that way. That's the other thing. I think I'm like very practical minded. It's like, she's like, well, what do you think's happening? I was like, I don't know. He moved his feet, and that's what I wanted him to do. So, like, now he doesn't have to do anything for a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's been really interesting to talk to because I guess she is in a phase of her education where she's taking a lot of like human behavioral classes, and then comes and like overanalyzes all the like client horses I have.
I think that's fun for me though, because since I am like not that, I definitely can be an overthinker, but not in that way maybe. And I think it's so interesting to listen to those people like think so much deeper about that, maybe those little nuances than I would think about them, you know. I definitely notice them in ways like there's times where I'm riding a colt, and this has happened a few times, and it kind of cracks me up where maybe we're just stubbing our toes a little bit on something, and we're kind of just holding our noses to the grindstone, trying to work through it, trying to find a place where we can let it rest and move on to something else for a minute. And Derek will like interrupt me or something in the feed truck, drive by, and I stop what I'm doing, go and talk to him for a second, totally let the horse check out, just let it sit there, and we're chatting, and then we go back to it, and it's like so much better. I'm like, see, sometimes I just need to quit, reset, and then go back to it. And that intrigues me because it's not even like, right, we quit. Maybe we didn't even quit at like a great spot. We were working at it, and you know, maybe it wasn't like tensions weren't super high or anything. It just wasn't feeling awesome. And then we just quit for a second and go back to it, and it's so much better. I'm like, I need to remember that. Yeah. Sometimes if it's just not going great, like maybe just take a second and take it like a couple deep breaths and then go back to it. And they're like, you mean this? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. I was talking with someone the other day, and I made the comparison. So I'm not what I would call musically inclined at all. Like, definitely, absolutely failed. Like trying to take guitar lessons when I was a little kid. Like my mom would drive me all the time, and I was just like way too busy just being like an outside dog to ever like come inside and play guitar, right? But I do know. Like one thing, especially in like orchestras and stuff like that, they talk about music, and they said some of the most important parts of the music is when there is no sound, right? Like the pauses.
Yeah.
And I tell people, like, I feel like teaching horses, like training horses is very, very similar.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a concept I've ridden with you, and like, I know you understand it, but like a lot of people, when they're learning, they think about like how to apply the aids, like, right, a rein here or leg here. And it's like, applying the aids isn't near as important as when you take the aids away. That's when all the education happens.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
So, yeah, you need to have good timing with your aids, but it's that silent part where like all the progress gets made. It's the standing around where you gain all the ground. And then you can go do the part where you're like moving around. But that's not them like studying. That's just them passing the test, confirming they know something now.
Right. Yeah.
The actual learning.
Like that gal that you were just talking about, she would probably be able to tell you why that is and like what's happening in their brain to make that happen. You know, like things are firing, and I don't know what that is, but it is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was another thing I wanted to bring up with y'all, and we'll like, I feel like we're every time like you and I talk, I feel like we have like just kind of we like talk horses for like, and just like it's like hours. A stream of consciousness about horses, yeah. But I do want to like kind of get more into like you and like your guys' deal and everything. But one of the things we can circle back to is like your dogs and everything. But have you ever heard of a book called The Farmer's Dog?
I need to read more books, Joe.
Well, okay. I'm not, when I say I like read these books, keep in mind it takes me like 6 to 8 months to get through one, right? And half the time they're audio books when I'm hauling horses or something. But so it's my understanding of it is it's one of the like first, it would be like the stock dog equivalent of like True Unity or something.
Oh.
Like it's one of the first books written on stock dogs.
Cool.
And I don't remember the guy's name, but he was a shepherd, like grew up in the 60s in Scotland, border collie, sheep, the whole deal. And that Jack Knox guy, who's the
Jack Knox.
Yeah,
he's
it's
in
Jack,
Missouri.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's in Missouri. He was the one. He like read this book when he was growing up.
Oh wow!
And that was like the first literature. So anyway, no kidding. It was there's like a thrift store in town, and we were getting ready to go. Every 4th of July, we go to the lake with Kaylee's parents, which is like fine. I'm not like, I like the lake and stuff, but it's like, it's fine. I don't vacation well, like just sitting around by the water, but they love it and, get to see her whole side of the family. So it's great. But I was like, I'm going to need like a book or something if I'm just going to be hanging out at the dock by the lake. And, so I had heard about Jack Knox talk about this book, and it was sitting there for $2 at the thrift store in town. And so I bought it, and it's pretty interesting. And I don't really know anything about training dogs, but it's just kind of an interesting read, especially with all the context of like having seen the people that derive so much from this original book.
Yeah.
But one cool thing in there, this guy was saying, he's like, I've bred a bunch of dogs and trained a bunch of dogs, and people don't get it. They're always talking about whatever breed it is, like the physical ability of the breed. And he said pretty much any physical trait you could assign to a dog where it's like, oh, this dog helps a human because it is fast or it is, strong or whatever it is. He's like, there's other animals in the animal kingdom that are faster than dogs or can change direction better than dogs and, all this stuff.
Yeah.
He said it's not the physical attributes that make dogs useful to humans. It's their mind. It's like their ability to learn, to take responsibility for a job and execute. And it's good to have an athletic dog, but it's the mind that really is what is benefiting the human. And I sat there and really thought about that, and I was like, man, horses are kind of the same way. Like, horses are really impressive creatures physically, but if you had to, you could name things like stronger, faster, bigger, whatever it is, like other animals that are that. So it's like, it's not those things specifically that make horses so valuable or useful to us. It's the fact that they have that ability to think. It's like the fact that they have their mind, but people don't always take advantage of that because they're breeding for faster or more agile or, higher jumping or whatever. Which again are very important traits, but the mind is what makes them useful.
And it's amazing how horses that are, it's interesting to me. I have noticed a difference between, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but horses that are bred to do specific things that maybe don't take a lot of, like, not that it doesn't take training, but like a racehorse, running horses, like they're bred to be fast, right? Like that's number one. And sure, of course they're trained, and that takes the right mind and everything, but that's different than like a dressage horse that is getting like trained to do lots of different things, has to be very trainable. And same with these like reining horses, these quarter horse performance horses that have to learn a lot of different things. And I just think their minds are so different. Like
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot. Sure, they're breeding for different athletic abilities, but they're breeding to be able to be teachable, to learn all these things. Where the racehorse is like, you need to not kill people, and be able to be handled, and then go really fast.
Yeah.
And it's different. Yeah, I haven't been around a bunch of running horses, but they're a little different.
Yeah. Well, I remember, it sticks in my brain. I think it was the last day we were there with y'all back in the spring, and like Derek and I were out there, and I was like bouncing around on that thoroughbred mare I have, who like still making really good progress, like really enjoy that mare. But we were out there, and I talked to Derek. I was like, man, I've been out here all week. Like, you've been watching me ride this thing, and you've got more experience than I do. Like, what do I need to do, man? Like, I feel like I'm trying my best. And Derek sits there kind of quiet and thinks for a second. He's like, well, they're not bred to feel back to you.
Yeah, exactly. You can't take so much of the credit, and it is amazing. Like, she's an awesome horse, and you've done so much with her. But yeah, sometimes you got to sit there and reflect back. Like, okay, you can't take all the credit for maybe the struggle, for some of the struggles. Like, it's not your ineptness. Like, she's ready to go. Like, she wants to go.
Yeah, well, and I've told that to a lot of people since he said that to me. Like, when they're talking about their thoroughbreds or kind of thoroughbred types. And they're like, man, this thing just wants to like jump out of its skin. What's the deal? Like, what am I doing? And it's like, you can always be a better horseman. You can always manage a situation better.
Yeah.
But I mean, that every cell in that animal's body is just telling it to be like that right now also. So
absolutely. Yeah.
That's a lot to compete with.
Like, you just need that, like, course still work on it. Of course, you can help that horse and make it better, but also, just like take a little bit of the pressure off yourself. Like, that's what they're supposed to do. That's what they think they're supposed to do, and so you're just helping them figure out how to be a different way. But their minds, like, that's. I just have so much fun. So I've got a little 2-year-old filly starting right now, and she's by hashtag, so she's a pretty decent bred little quarter horse, and I'm just like, did somebody start you before you came here? Like she just knows. I can't believe. I'm like, I don't think I can take credit for this horse. She acts like she already knows. Like, we're just loping along, I sit down, take my leg off, and just, whoa, and she's just buries it, and I'm like, okay, I get that you like physically are capable of doing this. You've got the breeding, like we say, we breed certain traits to be able to be that way, but like, you act like you already know what this cue is. Like, how? But so
that's cool.
So trainable. Her little mind is just like, I got you. She figures it out, and she's just like, that's the mind part too. She figures it out quickly, and then she's just like so ready to go to work and like, okay, I can do that. There's no fuss. There's no distraction. Like, once she figures out, she's all there. That's fun.
Yeah, no, it's nice. I've got one who's kind of similar right now. He's like half quarter horse, half Lusitano.
Oh, cool.
And so he's still kind of small, but he's got like the Lusitano like neck and throat latch and stuff. And it is funny because just the way he's built, it was like I barely touched both reins for the first time, and it was like this neck just like rose up out of this horse, and it was cool because I could, like, he lifts his back and he's very engaged, but it's just like, it's like that classic kind of Spanish movement, like that's in him, like to his core.
That's so cool. Yeah. He's like, I got you. I can do this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my dad always, he was talking about bulls growing up, because we'd always have a bull sale or something. But one of his favorite sayings was, "It's hard to outswim your gene pool." Yeah,
that is true. Yeah,
if they've got generations and generations of wanting to do it, they'll probably want to do it still.
my friend, I didn't know that much about Lusitanos. My friend has a Lusitano, and she ropes, and it's so funny. Like she has brought that horse a long ways. He had quite a history. He was an older horse when she got him, but she roped on him. But he was always pretty shy of the cattle. Like they started to come at him, he'd want to like whirl away. And then I finally saw those videos, those Lusitanos, where like put them in with a bull and let them just like show their natural ability. They can just like, I'm like, oh yeah, no wonder he wants to whirl away. Like that's what they're bred to do, you know, like they can just like pretty much do a canter pirouette, get out of the way, and like just maneuver so easily around those things. But like going to them is not really part of the game. And he's like, you want me to what?
Yeah,
I'm gonna go up there and rope this thing?
Yeah, not too big on tracking them, I'm sure.
Yeah, no. He's like, I'll run away. I can do that.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, so let's because I do want to kind of talk about you, and like how you got to where you are now and everything on this episode. So where are you now? It's somewhere in Oklahoma. I can't remember the name of the town because you guys aren't really in town, so I don't know.
In our town,
or anything.
We're near Burbank. We actually live like, it's kind of interesting. The ranch we live on we're like pretty much what used to be the heart of a town called Apperson. Now we live there's a road that's still called Apperson, but it was an oil boom town. And so the town, you would never know it was a town. But there's like, I've seen old pictures and stuff, and there's old, like you ride out through the pastures and there's like random foundations everywhere and everything. So but the closest town now is Burbank, and it's got a post office. It's kind of like
north central Oklahoma.
Yeah, north central. Yeah. We're real close to Kansas. Yeah, we're just south of Kansas.
Cool.
So,
but you're originally from the Northwest.
Yep, Northwest or Western Washington, and grew up there. Graduated high school, and immediately moved to Oklahoma. But I started riding horses in Washington. I grew up in like downtown, pretty much Olympia, Washington, which is the capital. And I just got super lucky about where I got started in with horses. I took lessons for 11 years from this lady that I think like the year I started when I was 6. She had just found Buck, which I didn't know who it was at the time. I just remember when I first started taking lessons, she had flat halters, and I remember the switch like within that first year of going to rope halters. And I was like, oh crap, now I have to remember how to tie this knot. I was like 6 years old, I have to tie this knot on. I can't just buckle it. But yeah, obviously I figured that out pretty quick. But that was such a cool start to be able to learn about groundwork and getting your horse with you and all that from like the get-go.
Yeah. So was that kind of driven by you, or did you grow up in kind of like a horsey family, or any like parents steer you that way?
Once removed, so my parents aren't real horsey, but my grandma, who lived in Oklahoma, which is why I ended up back here, she had horses. She it's always her dream to have horses. Once her kids moved out, and she retired, she instantly moved to the country and got horses. And so I was always around them from the time I was born up there. We'd go visit like once a year. And I was absolutely hooked. My mom was like, there was no 2 ways about it. Like, you were going to ride horses. Like, that's all nice. I cared about. I had, horse stuffed animals, the horse briars, all the things. And as soon as I was old enough to take lessons, I was at the barn. Yeah. So my grandma, she's the one who got me started. Yep.
And so you basically grew up in that lesson program then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took lessons there until I was 17, and it was really neat because she had a background in like 3-day eventing. So we did do quite a bit of jumping and stuff, and but there was always that, and I like the English background of like the thoroughness. Like, we learned all the parts of the tack and all the parts of the horse, and how to clean the tack and all this stuff. But we also did groundwork, and we also talked about just the horses' minds and like getting them with you, and the parts that maybe not every lesson program talks about. I think it's become a lot more that way, which is really cool to see. When I was a kid, these were 3-hour lessons. You got dropped off, you caught the horse, brushed it, tacked it. That took an hour. And then we rode. We did groundwork and rode for an hour. And then we put the horse away, untacked and cleaned all our gear for an hour. So back then, I feel like there was, once I didn't realize how cool that really was until I left the barn. And I saw these lessons that were like 45-minute lessons. And it was literally a pony ride. Like the horse is already tacked up. The kid just gets on and they get told to walk, trot, whatever. And I'm just like, they didn't even get taught how to do any of these things. They're just like, okay, now trot. Now so I think because of the clinic world, people are become a lot more aware of like all that goes into really being a good partner and of a horse. So it's really neat. I know some people that give some lessons now and are doing a great job of teaching kids just the whole deal of like owning a horse. Like some of these lessons when I was growing up, you couldn't just take lessons and then go buy a horse and know what to do, But I literally went from taking lessons at this place for a long time to having my own horse, a 2-year-old, and started it myself, and the rest is history. But so yeah, I'm grateful for that. We think the first colts I started was like when I was 12, probably helped start some colts, of course, under the teacher's guidance and everything. But that was really neat, to experience. And so, yeah, it was a good deal.
Yeah, that's all. Well, at least in the part of the world I grew up in, I do think that's really rare what you're talking about, because I see it today, and I don't know if I think there's a hint of it. Like if you run a lesson program, it's not necessarily in your best interest to like produce independent, like people who are well-rounded with the whole horse deal, right? It would be from a business standpoint in your best interest to create people that then, are youth and they show with you or do whatever activity, and then they turn into adult amateurs who keep paying you to like train their horse. And I see that a lot with some of the clientele I get. It's like, oh, our daughter got their first horse and she's like 16, and now we've got to come to you because we don't know how to handle it on the ground. We don't know like if it's bad for the farrier, what can we do to like mitigate that? Yeah. Because they've always been a part of this program. And I kind of tell them that it's, I think there's good lesson programs out there and bad lesson programs, but they're not necessarily incentivized to create independent people in the horse world. And so the fact that you were part of a program that did that, especially at the time when it happened, I would say probably was rare, and obviously super fortunate, because, don't kill the lamb when you can shear the sheep every year. Have you ever heard that expression?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like those kids that are doing 45-minute pony rides, when they're 30 years old, they're like doing the 45-minute pony rides and then having a glass of wine after. And that's really the only thing that's changed. Yeah. Right? Because there's still a crew in the background getting a check for doing all the actual horse stuff.
Yeah, I had not really thought of it like that, but that's a good point. And I will say that she had a pretty good setup with she had a lot of horses, and she loved to lease them out to us. And so that helped. Like, oh, you don't have to get your own horse. You just ride mine.
Right.
But yeah, she really did. And, she set us up to be able to do a lot of this stuff on her own. And taught us how to trim their feet and everything, where we're really pretty self-sufficient. Like you say,
awesome.
After I got my own horse, I ended up going to a different barn, my own barn. And, I could not have, I mean, I self-boarded because it was expensive to do full care board. And so if I didn't know all the things, like, I'd have been lost, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. But that's great because there's not really a place, like a standardized place where you could go and get that type of education. Like, you couldn't Google how to learn to become a competent horse owner and all the information would be in one place. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think at one time, like, I grew up as part of Pony Club. And I'm not going to sit here and bash Pony Club, but I'm also not going to sit here and say a bunch of amazing things about Pony Club. Because at one time, like, the theory was Pony Club was that thing, at least here on the East Coast. Like, here is literally a manual, and like it has everything you need for, you know, horse ownership, horse care, competing with horses, yada yada yada. But the problem is a lot of the information is very, very antiquated. And then also it's like, well, who's teaching all that? But anyway, that's a different podcast. So yeah, it's honestly, if you think about it, kind of a rare product for a kid. Because say you didn't grow up like on a ranch, or you weren't like a trainer's kid. I mean, that's kind of where I learned everything was. I was just the son of a horse trainer. Yeah. And not that my education was perfect, but I got exposed to the industry top to bottom from a young age. But if you were like, I just want to be involved with horses, like, there's not even, maybe there's a couple like collegiate programs that could help you, but not really. Like, it's really hard to learn everything top to bottom. And obviously you're always getting better and building, but it's honestly, the more I talk about it and think about what you're describing, it's very, very rare.
Yeah. And I think what's tough too is, that lady is by no means perfect, and she's,
right.
We've all got our own things, but she's like going to do what she's going to do, you know? And I think for a lot of people, she was intense. I'll put it that way. You know, I had, I've been joked with, you know, being from, Western Washington. Now I'm in Oklahoma, and those are two very different places. And my parents are kind of hippy dippy. And I was like, don't you worry. I had some hard ass people that helped raise me. I was in gymnastics, and that's a pretty tough sport. And then, this horse lady, she's pretty tough. But one thing that I do think is kind of, like you say, from a business aspect is, these are 3-hour lessons, and it was not optional to do these things. Like,
yeah.
If I said that horse is too tall, how do I get my saddle on? She's like, there's a stool, you know? Yeah. And so, I think also, like, these were the kids that stayed there for 11 years. There's only a few. I'm still friends with 2 of them, and they're still riding, you know? Horses are very much a part of their life. So the kids that like do just kind of, it's a phase, and, oh, I just want to ride horses, and like, they don't want those kind of lessons. But the people that actually want to learn and are going to be horse people and in the horse industry absolutely are going to benefit from lessons like that, you know? And so I do think that people in our age group, like, are the ones, at least one sticks out to me that just off the top of my head that I know of that's around our age that is doing some lessons. She starts colts too, but she does some lessons for kids. And I know she's doing, you know, the whole, like, teaching them groundwork, teaching them the care behind what goes into caring for horses and all that kind of stuff. And so I think our generation, maybe, I hope, is like figuring out that is important. And, you know, if that's not your whole business plan too, then maybe you don't have to cater to like every parent, every kid that just wants a pony ride, but you can just like take the kids on that actually want to learn this stuff and take it serious.
Yeah. Yeah. Top to bottom.
Yeah.
I think I would agree with you that that's more prevalent now. I think in a lot of things, just like culturally, there's almost been this return to kind of a more holistic approach about everything. You know, horsemanship in itself is kind of like that, where it's like, oh, it's not just get him to take the left lead. It's like, this is what he's thinking and this is what you have to do. And like, and it's like more of a way of being, right? And so, yeah, if you're going to be in the horse deal and truly understand it and be like a quote unquote horseman, not just like a jockey or a trainer or whatever, yeah, you have to have a holistic approach to the whole deal, which, as I know you appreciate, it makes you better at everything anyway.
Yeah.
Like, if the better you can get in your like veterinary care and your like understanding of how your horse is shod or whatever it is, you're gonna be better like riding them and things like that, because
they're gonna be better too.
Yeah,
and they're gonna be able to give you more and feel better, and the whole end product is gonna be so much better. It's just as you're working with everything, and sure, you don't have to know everything about everything, but I think just being aware of, like, not just trusting what any professional tells you, but being like aware of some things, like I should know, or I should ask for credentials for my farrier, or know what, like, why is it good? Oh, that's a good farrier. Okay, what makes them good? Like, do you know why that is? And just for, like I say, I guess everybody has different standards of what they want, but like you say, like, it's sad when people are like super lost with their horses and like, what do I do? Like, my farrier won't come back because he won't stand, and just learning how, even just the basics of how to fully have horses in your life. Like, that should be, I think, every lesson program, but I guess I'm not thinking of it from a business standpoint. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like I have some clients now that maybe it's like a financial situation or whatever, but it's them as adults for the first time are getting into horses. And I try to help them as much as I can, but watching them, sometimes it's like, man, a lot of times this stuff is like school of hard knocks, right? Like, they just don't know. Like, buying horses is a good one, right? That's like when someone's like, I finally have the land and the money and the time, I'm going to buy a horse. It's like sending a lamb to slaughter. Yeah. And I don't know why there's so many sheep idioms in this podcast, but like, that's what it feels like, because they're like, oh, and stuff like that. If they can get around someone who, one, has good intentions, and then two, kind of knows some stuff, man, it can just completely flip the experience. Because what can happen is they take a couple of those hard knocks, whether it's from shady farrier or a shady horse trainer or a shady horse seller, and then they're like, well, I don't want to do the horse deal, I'm going to go buy a set of golf clubs or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, someone that could have been a part of the industry and, been contributing to it for the next 20, 30 years, they don't, because they just took it in the teeth a couple times, because there's all these like unwritten rules that, like I said, there's nowhere you can just like buy a book and learn how to own a horse. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm hopeful that there's more, like you say, just the more people wanting to be like holistic about things, that there's more and more places to teach more of these things, I hope, for people. Because it's also sad, even if they don't leave horses, but you can tell they've been down, like, by the time they make it to you or to me, like to somebody that is willing to teach them the in-depth parts of these things and not just tell them, oh, you need to do this, but actually teach them, then they're already so lost and so have been down so many rabbit holes that were not helpful. And it's just like, gosh, I feel so bad. And then they have to weed through all this information that they were told, but they weren't actually taught any reasons behind it. And that's tough. So, but anyway, I guess that we got really off on a tangent there. But so you moved to Oklahoma. So straight at like 18 years old, you moved to Oklahoma. And that's like, do you go like where grandma is? Because that, not a lot of 18-year-olds move halfway across the country. Yeah, to where they know nobody. So kind of funny events. My grandma had a horse that she bought that was not supposed to be pregnant, that was pregnant, that it was 2 years old when I turned 16. And so we shipped her out to
Washington, and she was my first horse. And I started her and everything. But then we decided I was going to move back to Oklahoma with Grandma because she was definitely getting some dementia, and so she bought this place, had 15 acres. She built her own log cabin with my uncle when she was like, I don't know, 70 or something. And did not want to leave this place ever, you know. And she had the land, and I was thinking after a couple years of starting this horse, and I was like, I think this is what I want to do, you know. And way more horse country in Oklahoma. And she had the land, and it win-win. I can go stay with her, and she gets to stay at home for a lot longer. And so me and the horse shipped back to Oklahoma. And I was just south of Stillwater, Oklahoma. Some people might know where Stillwater is. Got OSU. For like maybe 6 years. I don't know. Something like that. And okay. And that's where I got started. I started just getting word of mouth, you know. I think my very first outside horse client was like, we had a guy putting in a aerobic septic system, and he happened to live like not that far away, and he had a horse that he wanted started. So yeah, just started riding some horses, and that's kind of what I've been doing ever since.
Wow. So at this place, you know, like, what was your facility like to start with? Just like portable round corral, or like what do we have going on?
I will say there wasn't a lot. She had a barn, but it's like old barn. There was 2 stalls, and then the rest of it was just like open with hayloft. And the best thing she did have was a round pen, and the round pen she had was like Oldison and heavy duty, nice round pen. It wasn't pretty, but it was a good one. And so I'm grateful for that, you know. You can hardly buy those heavy duty ones anymore. But so I had that, and then I had 15 acres of pasture, and actually the neighbor next door had a hayfield that they were older, and I don't think they actually really hate it anymore. And they let me ride over there. And then we lived on a dirt road, not a rock road, like red Oklahoma dirt roads all over, and I just go ride down all the roads. And one time a friend of mine that same guy that I started that first horse for, he had some cattle like a couple miles down the road, and I'd go check on them for him and make sure, you know, nothing was out and everything looked healthy, and go ride over there. So I was just riding outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It wasn't fancy. My tack room was my trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is almost exactly how I started out. You know, like I had like a run-in shed that I took corral panels and made 2 stalls in the run-in shed. Mm-hmm. And tack room was in the trailer. All the horses got tied to the trailer. And then on the other side of the road was a portable round corral that was in the bull pasture. So it was like
nice.
like every now and then the bulls would come up and like rub on my round corral before I could even start working with my colt. Like I'd have to make it back into a circle.
Yeah, make it round again.
Yeah. I was telling Noelle, the gal that's my barn manager, has been working for me and stuff. I was telling her about how in the beginning I can remember it was February. I was so excited. Someone gave me their like 3-year-old stud to start. And I had this 3-year-old stud, and looking back, he wasn't that bad. But at the time, he was a lot of horse for me. Yeah. It was the first stud I'd ever really started. And I've dealt with a handful since then. But like, I just had to get this thing going. But it was February, and I think like every day in February, there's at least like 5 or 6 inches of snow on the ground. Ugh. And so I just remember the only place there wasn't snow was in this round pen where he like trotted around and stuff. And I started him in that round pen, in the snow, in the bull pasture. And I was like, I can't, like, how did I not get killed like doing that? Yeah. And but it's what I wanted to do, and I figured it out.
Go ahead.
it's one of those things. I feel like if you want it, like you're gonna make it work.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I have one of those stories that comes to mind is like, there was one horse for some reason I think I took that didn't come to my house. It was like a friend of my grandma's, and it was at her house, and it was like probably 30 or 40 minutes away. And I started it was like half Frisian 4-year-old mare. And I remember driving over there in the snow to go ride this thing, all through the winter. And like, okay, I just got one more to ride, just gotta go drive through the snow, one more and then I'll be done. But yeah.
Cool. So and then as far as the horse business, because that's honestly like when I see people at a show or a clinic and they recognize the podcast or whatever, a lot of them are either people that are just getting into horse training, or they're like in this phase where they're like kind of just making it, which I consider myself still in that phase too. It's like, like I'm economically viable. Yes. And like that has been my biggest achievement, right? Is like being in the black most of the time now. But can you talk a little bit about, in the beginning it was word of mouth. Like, did you do anything to grow, or was it just, this guy had a colt and told the neighbor, or like, how did you approach that? And maybe at that age you don't even, like, you're just taking the horses and riding them, and you're like more focused on that aspect than the growth, which that's important too. But can you talk about like how that's kind of evolved a little bit?
Yeah, like, so one thing for sure, I was like, I need more experience, I need a lot more hours. So I started, when I had that first horse when I was 16 and I moved barns, I actually figured out who was giving this teacher all this knowledge. It was Buck. I didn't know it at all those years though. So that's there's some things. We weren't told all of the stuff. We're just spoon fed it little by little from the program. But once I left, I was like, oh, it's Buck. And oh, wow, he has a clinic that's like half an hour away from where I live. And so that was the first exposure to that. And, I just remember Buck saying, like, you've got to ride 5,000 in colts before you know kind of halfway what you're doing. I was like, okay, I'm starting number one. Got that one down, And so I knew I needed a lot. But I do have an older brother that's like very smart, business minded. He's like, it's all about connections, like if you're going to have a business, you got to make connections. So, and I hated school, bless my parents' heart. If it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have graduated high school. So, I was not planning on going to college, but I did have a college fund, like some money, and I actually took that out and I spent it all on clinics. I was like, this is my college. This is my education. Yeah. So I went to tons of clinics and I met tons of amazing people, and that really, really helped. Like the people you meet in the horse world when you're searching for what you want is like, people love to say there's crazy people in the horse world. Well, sure. But like, there's so many amazing people too. Mm-hmm. And I just, started my little network of people through going to clinics and you got to spend money to make money, but it was so worth it for more than just that, Of course, I'm learning like so much all the time. It's just like a little sponge. You're just soaking it up so much at first. So that just felt like that really helped fast forward some learning for me, especially growing up in that kind of a lesson program. I feel like the clinic that like really works for me to learn from that kind of atmosphere and really put your nose to the grindstone, go home, work on it for a while, and then go to another one and get to bring up what maybe you stubbed your toe on at home and work through the next part until you can only retain so much from each clinic. But so that's I think was a huge part of my little starting a little network for myself.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear you say, because I feel like I did something very similar after it was the summer after college. when I went to my first buck clinic and kind of got exposed to like all the horsemanship stuff and kind of everything that I guess now you'd say is like kind of my bread and butter and how I make my living and everything. But yeah, after I went to the first clinic, I had a very similar thought. I was like, I feel all of a sudden I feel like really far behind, even though I've been around horses all my life. I feel really far behind, and I just need to. The first thing I need to do is invest in my education.
Yeah.
And like to the point where I don't think I like spent money irresponsibly, especially at that time I had like a good paying job, so I like could spend the money. But like all my vacation days, everything that was outside of like my 9 to 5 job was just pouring money into the horse deal. And I didn't even have plans of working professionally in it, but I was just like, it was something that I felt like I needed. And looking back, horses really isn't about this for me, but I do notice this stuff because at the end of the day, you do have to run a business too. Like taking the time to invest in my education over the next 4 or 5 years or however long it's been now, and just do a crazy amount of clinics compared to the average person. It like in my area has in a lot of ways like separated me from people who didn't do that, didn't invest in that. And it's not necessarily good or bad, but it does make me different because at least in my area of the country, there's not as like that many people who have spent this much time trying to get educated on this stuff as I have. And I still have a long way to go, and I'm not doing it because I'm in competition with these people. But that's the type of stuff you notice after you get down the road, because it's like you start to get horses who have been to so and so and so and so and so and so, and now they're here. And then it's like almost every horse, and it's like, okay, so I'm kind of the end of the line. And as far as I know, there's not another guy after me, right? There might be. That'd be really cool if there was another guy and I could go like find him and just like he was right down the road.
But, you could be like, this other guy, he can handle this one. It's handle.
Like I would love one day for the like a client to be like, well, you're not getting this done fast enough, and I'm gonna send him to so and so, and like, well, I never heard of that guy, but if you want this horse to go there, like I'm going with him.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
But I think it's cool that you recognized that though. That if you wanted to do that, the number one thing you could invest in would be your education. Because you could have invested in other stuff. You could have taken the college fund and said, oh, I'm going to use this to lease a super nice facility, or I'm going to use this to buy a bunch of gear, or, start marketing a bunch, right? Like taking out ads in the paper, or, building a website or whatever. And it's like, no, first things first, like gain the ability to do this stuff. Because one, it'll keep you safe and sustainable. But two, then you'll actually have something worthwhile, and the business part will start to take care of itself a little bit more.
Yeah. I think that going the other route is like going to be very short lived,
Correct.
Maybe you can get through some horses okay, but if you really have something to offer and you take the time to educate yourself and you actually get good at what you're trying to market, then people are going to find you. They're going to seek you out. They're going to look for who knows really how to do this. And just after you spend that many hours and you go that many places learning, there's a network of people who know who you are. And you can actually back it up. You can get the things done. And I just love the horses. Took me a while to be able to kind of think about the business aspect of it, because I just wanted to ride horses. Like that's all I wanted to do.
Same here.
And people are like, my mom lots of people, some mentors, they're like, but what does that look like? I'm like, I don't know. It looks like me riding horses. And they're like, but you have to make money. And I'm like, oh, okay. But so that was, I guess, the driving force behind me, like wanting to get the education, wanting to be good at it was, I wasn't even thinking of like making money at the time or making a successful business. I want to get good at this because it's like my drive, my calling, like the thing that wakes me up in the morning, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's, man, I totally agree with that. Like people ask me about how I got into the horse thing. And there's just times, I don't know, like, it's just like you are doing whatever on a horse and you get moments of you're doing exactly what you were like put on this earth to do. Yeah. And I've just always had that feeling. So if you get that feeling, of course, you're going to seek out how to do that better. Yeah. Or at least that's kind of how it worked in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. How to do it better. And like, okay, if this is like, I have to do this, like, this is the one thing that I just absolutely want to do in life. Like, and then, you know, after a while and you grow up some, then you're like, okay, then I have to be able to feed myself, be able to feed my horses and everything. So how can I make this viable? Like actually a reality. And, I literally have had, I guess 2 real jobs. Like one, I worked at a vet clinic for a little while. And as a teenager, I taught gymnastics. That was like my first job, I guess. But I've only had like one grown up job, and that was working at a vet clinic. And I was still riding a couple outside horses at the same time after work, but I only took in like 2 at a time. But I told my friend the other day, I'm like, there's no like, if I worked a town job, then I would be miserable. I'm like, there's just no, I couldn't picture it. Like the vet was very interesting, and I'm really glad for that job. But yeah, I just want to ride horses and help people too, you know, help the horses, help people. That just definitely feels like my calling. That feels like kind of a chintzy thing to say, but it's what I've always done.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, and from my perspective, I think it's awesome that you had so much direction at a young age, because not a lot of people have that. Like, I'm sure you're not above like having an existential crisis every now and then, because everyone does.
Not, like on the regular.
but to like have that direction as a teenager still, that's really cool, because that's kind of a rare thing.
Yeah, I've had people say that to me, like, you knew what you want to do from the get. Like, I never questioned that from the time I literally can remember. Yeah, what do you want to do? Like, of course, I didn't say like train horse. I wanted to ride horses. Like, I wanted to be around them. I wanted to ride them. I wasn't thinking about it in a like job type of way at that time. But yeah, it was always so clear. And I have had people, like, even as a teenager, I remember adults like just kind of being boggled by that. Like, you are so clear on what you want already. I'm like, yeah, you're not, you know, like, don't you have something that drives you? But I'm real grateful for, I think the people that I had that barn, and then my parents, like, just really helped foster that too. I'm sure there's a lot of people that, probably don't have as much privilege of just support system that kind of help. They might have something they're really passionate about, and nobody ever helped make it possible. And so they had to just like, okay, it's time to grow up and I got to go get a job and pay my bills, you know? So it's definitely a lot went into helping me get to where I am now, for sure.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So when you say, all right, so you've moved in with grandma, you got the college fund, you're ready to burn the money on clinics. Like, are these Buck Brannaman clinics? Like, how many clinics are you doing? Who are you riding with? Like, how are you kind of going about shaping your education?
I think I must have done a lot of, I did a lot of buck clinics. I also I've ridden with Ricky Quinn since I was like 16. So, I rode a lot with Ricky too. He came to like Arkansas, and Missouri, and I think I did a few for him in Oklahoma as well. And a lot with those two guys. I also used to go to the Legacy of Legends about every year, and I saw Buster McLaury, and I took some clinics with him too. I was really impressed with the way he, especially this one year, started this gray mare. She was a little bit older and she was super touchy, and he just like finessed the hell out of it, and it just was so smooth. It was really neat to watch. And so I did some clinics with him. I've ridden with Joe, and I've ridden with Lee Smith. I've ridden, lots of people. But I did go to one of my more recent really, really like in-depth experiences to further my education was a couple years ago in Texas with Isaac Johnson at the Rockin' X Academy for 5 months. And that was like, I guess that adds up to a lot. Like when I say like, yeah, who did you learn from? Like Buck obviously got me into this stuff. Ricky has been a huge influence. And then Isaac, like it's been more recent. It doesn't go back as long, but I also spent 5 straight months with him and lived, next door. And that he's been a huge mentor as well, like taught me so much. And just really neat to see, like, you learn from different people, and sometimes you're like, well, I hope this all jives, like these are all very different people. I don't know if everybody knows Isaac, Ricky, and Buck, but they're all very different. And like for me, in my mind, the way it works, at least, like everything just fit to me. Like it all jived. It was all, everybody says things differently, sure, but there was nothing that was like, oh dang, like they're saying this, but this person said this, so that was very good. That was a good thing. And it just kind of clicked. And so those guys are probably my biggest influences.
Cool. And then, so obviously you're not living with grandma anymore.
No. No.
So where did, you, and I assume like through all this, the clientele and the business has grown along with your abilities and your education, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So, kind of your peak at that place, this is always an interesting question. Like, how many horses were you taking in?
Not a lot. That was, how many years ago? Probably like 3 or 4 on average at a time. Yeah. And, I
actually think that's like when you're in that stage, when you're still kind of learning.
Yeah.
Like if you can have about that amount, like 4, if you can have 4 going, that's really, really nice.
Yeah.
Because
I also was charging way less than 2, so it goes a lot less far.
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying the like economics of it will work out to have 4 horses. And if you're out there trying to make a living right now, I'm not saying cut everything down to 4 horses. But like when you're trying to learn, you're inevitably going to, as you put it, stub your toe.
Yeah.
And so then when you only have that many horses, you can be like, well, now I'm really going to sit here and take the time to figure this out. Not just for the horse, but for me.
For sure.
And I feel like I still stub my toe all the time. But as I have gone through this and attempted to progress, I feel like I can see places where I'm like, oh, I see this issue. Maybe it's like a blind spot or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I can see this issue, and this is really bothering this horse and holding this horse back. So it's still going to take time to fix this. But we're kind of hopefully be closer to the horse's timeline than my timeline. It's like how long is it going to take for them to get comfortable, instead of how long is it going to take for me to figure out how to get this to work, because I've already worked this out on like 5 other horses this year or whatever it is. But in the beginning, if you only have that 3 or 4 number, you can give yourself the grace to take the time to figure that out.
And to the opposite of that as well, like when I was first starting and there was just one colt at a time or something, that's a lot. Like what is going on to be able to, and I had my own horses as well. My grandma had some horses, and I had my own horse, but to have a few different colts and be able to like see, oh, well, this one was kind of doing that. And then I did this and this, that helped this one. I wonder if that'll help this one. Or, you know, I just feel like having a few, to go back and forth between, like we're talking about the last bit I was there, and I had a few at a time. It was nice to just be able to see the similarities, I guess, in the different horses and the differences, and just be like, oh, I think this could help this horse, and this could, when there's just one, it's like, and you almost, it's too focused on it, you know, like I love having
like the poor horse.
Yeah, the poor, like, I'm just like, we're going to figure this out. I don't know how, but we're going to work on every aspect, and one of these things is going to help. But, yeah, when you have, like, a whole string of horses, I love riding different horses and feeling, like, the different good qualities in each of them. And maybe this one has struggles in this, and you're like, oh, this horse really struggles at this. But then you ride another horse, and they struggle at the thing that other horse is good at. And you're like, well, that horse is really good at that. And I just think it helps you see the good that each of them has as well.
Yeah, no,
they're all going to struggle at something.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, like you said, that it might be, oh, well, this horse had this problem, but it was way more mild. So I kind of know where the end of the road will be. And now I can help this guy who's way out here. It's like, oh no, we need to get back over here. So yeah, totally agree with that.
Yeah, and like you said, like it's definitely, that's a change. I never put it into words like that, but yeah, at the beginning, you're trying to get things figured out, and there's a period of time you can get things done. You know, I can get a lot more done in a shorter amount of time than I used to, because just the experience. And now it's like, sure, if this horse is going to have a hard time, it's going to have a hard time, but it's just the horse, you know, like horse's time, like you said. It's not your lack of knowledge of what to do about it. It's just like, okay, we're doing all the things. And then just being also, like, after the years of experience, just having the faith to trust the process of, like, this is going to work. Like, you're going to come through this. It's just going to take time. Like, I remember, oh my gosh, I don't know if you were like this, going to bed, like, I have to figure this out, you know, and maybe I was doing everything right, and the horse did come around, you know, but it's going to take time. And they don't just go, oh, thanks for showing me that I don't have to be worried about that blind spot behind me. Now I'm just going to be fine with it. You know, like, no, it still takes them time to work through that and get confidence. And now it's like, if you know you're doing all the things and you're doing them, then it's like, okay, it'll just take some time. And sure enough, they always get better, you know?
Yeah. Well, if it's just the first time going through the tunnel, you don't know how long the tunnel is. And so you can get like 3/4 of the way through, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, we've barely scratched the surface of this thing.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely like forehead on the round pen, like just wanting to bawl my eyes out, like, what is wrong? Why is this not working? Yeah. And I feel like that's a phase you have to go through as well, unfortunately. But it's just part of the deal. Cool. So so from there, where do we go next? So
ever since I moved, I think the first year I moved to Oklahoma at Christmas, and that, you know, Buck used to come, I think it's like every other year now, but he came to Oklahoma in February every year. And so that was not very much time for me to be like, you know, we moved there, and I was like, I think actually it had been the Spanaway Clinic in Washington was in October. And so I'd ridden with Buck in October and been like, oh man, that was my second clinic. And I'd been like, I just found this, and this is so great. I'm so bummed I'm moving to Oklahoma. And he's like, oh, there's good people in Oklahoma. Yeah, Ryan and Rebecca Brand, like, you look them up. And so then, of course, we got on the clinic schedule, and we're looking, and we looked into getting into that February clinic, and of course it's full. And I was like, little did I know, all you got to do is get on the waiting list. Like, somebody will flake out. You just get on the waiting list and you'll get in.
Somebody's going to have a flat tire or something.
Yeah. And so I was all bummed that it was full, but of course the spot opened up. So I went to that first clinic in think it was in that first one. Anyway, it was in Oklahoma, and met Ryan and Rebecca and just started riding in that clinic every year. And so kind of got to know them and started coming up and riding at the ranch a little bit. And then one year, it was funny. I was at Ricky and Sarah's, I think, and Sarah was like, "Oh my gosh, gotta tell you about this like most eligible bachelor. He works for Ryan, and like you're just not very far from there. And he's always such a great guy and all this." I'm like, "What am I supposed to do? Like, just go up to the ranch and be like, hey, I'm supposed to meet this guy here?" Like, so I of course did not do that. I'm pretty introverted, so I was like, "Yeah, okay." I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that information, but okay. And so I just kept doing my thing. And then one fall, Ryan was like, "Hey, you want to come up to branding?" And I was like, "Heck yeah." And so we met at branding. Me and Derek met at branding. And it was funny because I don't know if I'd Facebook stalked him, probably, let's be honest. But I like rode into the branding pen and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is the guy that Sarah was talking about. I just know it." And it was funny. He asked for my number at the branding, and then he never lets me live this down. Or I don't know if he didn't ask for my number. He was like, "Hey, are you going to be here tomorrow?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Okay, great." And then my farrier was late the next day, and I didn't make it to branding the next day. So he's like, "What the heck? You told me you were going to be there, and then you never showed up, and I didn't even get to ask for your number." But anyway, I think he'd gotten it from Sarah or Ricky or somebody, and I was holding a clinic for Ricky the very next weekend, and he ended up showing up to that, and then asked me out to go to dinner, and I guess the rest is kind of history. We started dating and talking, and fast forward however many years, and it just blows my mind to remember Buck saying like, "Oh yeah, you're moving to Oklahoma, like you got to look up Ryan and Rebecca Brand." And now I'm like living on Ryan's ranch, and just
very self-fulfilling right there.
Yeah, like I don't know how many events needed to go right for that to happen, but they did.
That's awesome. Cool. And now you've been 2 years.
2 years,
on the dot, right?
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Nice.
But it goes by so fast. I mean, you just got married, so you're gonna blink, and then it'll be 2 years.
Yeah. I've been. We got married 10 days ago. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was great. I'm actually on Friday. One of my groomsmen is getting married, so I'm a groomsman in his wedding, and we're just like, it's pretty much all the same people. We're just gonna do it all over again, which is exciting, but also I'm like, I feel like I barely recovered from my wedding.
You ready for another big party?
Yeah, exactly. So cool. And then, well, so I don't know if you noticed, I wore your hat.
Oh yeah.
And this is really embarrassing because it's on my head, but it's Crazy Heart U. That's what it's called. Yeah. Can you say the full name? Crazy Heart U Horses?
Yeah, Crazy Heart U Horses. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So is that like a you and Derek thing, or did you have that going prior to the two of you, or
no?
Like, where did that come from?
That's an us thing. So our story is definitely a lot more in depth than the little short version I gave. But
Sure.
we dated, and we actually broke up, and then we dated again, and then we broke up, and then I was gone to Texas for 5 months, and like the day I came back from Texas, he proposed to me. So I'd say we got crazy hearts. So we're like, oh my God, we're crazy. Like most people that know our story are probably like, those two, what the heck is going on with them? So we thought, we crazy hearts. And then, like I crazy heart you. We have a definitely not normal story, but, sometimes you just gotta like, you don't know what you got until it's gone kind of thing.
Sure.
And, so that's when we liked it. It's just like clean. And also the heart, I feel like a lot of brands right now that are hearts. And I learned that, when something's upside down, that you read it crazy. So like the brand itself upside down is is a Crazy Heart, and which I just thought was a little different, and it's clean, like that.
No, it looks good. It's a good brand.
Yeah, the logo is like in depth, but that's not the whole,
Yeah.
That's more than just the brand. But so yeah, that's what it came from. I just thought it was different, and then also the fact that it was called a Crazy Heart because it's upside down. I thought that was just fitting for our story.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't realize all of that, so I'm glad I asked.
Yeah,
cool. I actually really like. I've told myself I'm going to start doing this next year because you said you give these hats like to your clients when they come pick up a horse.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to start doing that with the McDonald equine hats next year because I really like that concept. But
yeah,
I'm not
that's
as
awesome.
in depth on the merch game as you are.
Well, now that you say that, I'm like, oh boy, I better re-up because I just ran out of hats, so I better get on that.
Because now that you do it, and it's like probably in some way, like, it is advertised because people are probably wearing the hats, right?
Yeah.
So like, you don't want someone to be the one client that didn't get a hat, and then they're like, "Why am I the one client that didn't get a hat?"
What did I do? No, and I think that people really like them. Like, not everybody wears a ball cap, and sometimes, like, if I know somebody's not gonna wear a ball cap, then I don't bother. But it's just some little token. They're not that expensive. It's doing some advertisement for you, and it just like feels good to, like, they're getting their horse back safe, so that's a big thing. But just to get just a little token of, like, here, thanks for trusting me, and little bit of merch.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's awesome, and I do really like the brand a lot. So with that, because Derek's already been on the podcast, so anyone listening, you should go back and listen to Derek's episode if you haven't heard it already. Derek works for the K Barr C where y'all live, and then you are still kind of doing your deal, right? Like, you're riding horses for the public, and then I know you guys, probably kind of like everyone who's in the industry, like, you have some personal horses and you will sell them, but it's not like you are like a horse selling business at this point.
Correct. We have some colts. We really like to acquire, or I do. Derek he likes them too much too, that he's not very good at telling me no. But we like to acquire horses, but at the same time, and I like I'm starting more and more outside horses all the time. So I guess the need for my own is less, but, I like seeing a colt that I really think is a nice horse and starting it and riding it. And then at the end of the day, we have like, oh my gosh, we have so many horses, and this one is like a really kind horse. And then it's like, okay, well, let's see if we can fit it to somebody that, is in need of like just a really good, solid horse. And so, we do that, for sure, but they're horses that we have bought as babies, and that we're definitely not horse traders. We're not trying to like buy and sell horses. We just like to buy them and start them and bring them along and make them really nice horses. And then it's like, okay, we've got a few too many. This one's like probably fit a lot of people. And we realized that too. Like, I've had so many people contact me, and looking for this, and safe horses, good all around horses are always, I think, going to be in high demand, that people can trust and know the background on, so I can appreciate that too.
Have you branded any of your horses?
No, so we have this brand. We literally got the brand made, and I really hope soon we will brand our horses.
Okay.
Yes.
I always feel like that's I don't know. Maybe it's because of where I live and it's just not as common. But I have mixed emotions about like branding horses that aren't like horses that I bred. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm just I'm like thinking about the cattle part of it too much, I guess. But it's like, it makes sense to me where, say you've got some big stud program or something, and they brand all their horses because like, oh, that's off of, you know, the Pitzer Ranch or whatever it is.
For sure.
But then I realized there's people who are like, oh, I bought this colt and like now it's in my program and I've ridden it for the last like 3 or 4 years, and it's like, this is our horse, stamp of approval, put the brand on it. And I can really appreciate that. But then sometimes I go back and forth. It's like, man, I feel like if I'm going to brand the thing, like it's got to die here. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I go back and forth on that, because then I do see guys like around me who they do brand their horses and they sell them. And these guys are making like good, gentle horses. And then, you know, you see someone riding at the horse show or whatever it is, and it's like, oh, they got so-and-so's brand on it, and that's, you know, horse is doing pretty good. And it's like, well, that would be nice too. So
yeah, I guess that does make me feel like a little, that's where I would be on the fence too, is I feel a little bad. Part of me wants, like, I love my horses, our horses, you know, and there's definitely ones that, one thing I've learned too is to just like never assume you think you know how something's going to go. So there's also horses that we have there's horses that I've had in the past that I said were never going anywhere. And they did, you know. So I also just realized that it's not like the plan is even to sell them sometimes. Sometimes it's just the right person comes along and it's the right situation and it just happens, and that's the way it's supposed to happen. So part of me would like the brand on our horses because we love the heck out of our horses.
Mm-hmm.
But then,
and you put a lot of work into them as well.
Yeah, for sure. And then, but part of me feels a little bad. Like, okay, is it just a way of like advertising? You know, it's just your stamp on there. And so when somebody sees it, it's like, oh, that's a nice horse. Like, oh, that's must have been where you got it. Like that feels a little, I don't know, just dirty to me. Like it's an animal, you know, it's not a hat that you can just like throw away when it gets worn out, you know? So I don't, when I think about it from that standpoint, I don't love the thought of just like branding them for marketing sake. But I think when I sounded excited at the beginning is because I'm excited to brand these horses that like we pour our hearts into, and I love them. And
because you have, I think the reason you're excited is because you like have pride in it, right?
Yeah, and they're special, you know. The ones that I get to ride lots of horses, and I love lots of my clients' horses, but the ones that we own are like, we were really excited about them. We really love them, and they're special.
Yeah.
To us.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then one thing too, at least from what I saw, I think that's interesting is it like, as far as the facility set up, you have a big giant ranch and like a bunch of cool jobs, and you get to ride with your husband when you can and stuff. So like there's a lot of advantages. But like you don't have a round pen now.
I have it set up.
Oh, you have it set up now? Okay, great. Well, when I was there, you didn't have a round pen, and I was like, man, she's just like starting these colts out here. Like this gal's tough. Like
it only took us till like August. Yeah, it only took us till August to get the round pen set up for the year, which is ironic because I think one of the harder horses I had to start was when you were there. And I did not use.
Yeah, I remember you working with one that I was like, I would want to put him in like a 50-foot round pen if I had that horse.
You know what's the coolest thing? I mean, that was a process with that horse, but thank goodness he was here for 3 months, and the owners like understood the time that it takes, the time it takes. And I've gotten several videos since he went home with their kids riding him, their neighbor boy riding him, and he's just like loping around, just looks all good as all get out. Both their kids rode him when they came to pick him up, and he was just like perfect. I'm just like, who are you? Like, what did... And they were just shocked because I had told them, like, this is a process. You know, this is horses just got some baggage, and it's just going to take the time it takes. And then they picked him up, and they're like, what are you talking about? He's amazing. I'm like, yeah, good. I'm glad that's how it turned out.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So that was neat. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, that's the best way for it to happen. But it is funny, especially with kids, because it's like they get away with murder because they're just like they don't have a like bad intent in their body, and the horses feel that and stuff. And so you're like, if I tried to do that, I would be in the hospital in 2 seconds.
Yeah. But so yeah, I've got the round pen, but got that set up now, and we do have a makeshift arena. You've seen it. The footing is not the best. I need like a rock picker. They know they make those, and I want to see about renting one and like dragging the arena and getting all the rocks out. That would be amazing. But yeah, it's a decent set.
I loved it out there. I really liked it. I think I just like Oklahoma a lot. But yeah, so obviously you and Derek are kind of like a lot of people our age who've just gotten married, even though, like you said, it's been 2 years now, which is kind of crazy. But I know you guys, like, in terms of what you're doing with the horses, have like goals and aspirations, but I know one thing you said you're more interested in doing was getting into the showing a little bit. So like, I guess kind of the last thing I wanted to touch on is just moving forward. Like, what are your goals right now? Because I did enjoy when we visited about how, what was it? It was like an Arab show or something you went to, because they had cow horse classes.
Yeah.
And not that you were riding any Arabs, but it was a breed show, but you could just go and practice in the cow horse classes at the Arab show. I thought that was a really neat story.
The best low pressure situation ever. If you need to go there, if you're in Oklahoma, Green Country Arabian Association has got these shows, and they've got all breed classes, and that was really great. We have not made it back. I've been so busy with outside horses this year, which I'm super grateful for. And luckily my horse is like such a gem, and he just lets me pull him out a couple times a week, and I'm not putting the consistency in him as much as I've wanted, but like my schedule should be slowing down a little bit this fall, so I'm really hoping to get riding him more. Derek, same thing. He's just so busy on the ranch that we really haven't been able to focus on our own horses like we wish we would. Not that we don't, not even that he doesn't ride them. It's just that they're always doing a job, and we're not working on what we need to do to kind of get these maneuvers for a show together. But I think we're going to try to start. Isaac's just in Purcell, which is just a couple hours away, and he's been showing quite a bit. And so I think we're going to try to go down there more regular.
Oh, great.
And try to get ourselves like, okay, we going to do this or what? Like, let's get for real, you know? And I mean, for real for what? Like, it's not like we're showing other people's horses. There's no pressure. It's just like, we want to do it, and we want to experience it. And sometimes you got to kick yourself in the butt and make yourself go do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cause it's like, until you go take the test, you're really not going to be as incentivized. Like there's a difference between just riding at home in your arena and just like, man, that stop felt really good, or man, this or that. But like, until you go to town and kind of really get measured, right? Get judged. Not that you should have your entire self-worth wrapped up in that, but it is going to push you and make you think about where you need to improve. And it's, in my opinion, you can't just do that like by yourself, you know, out in the arena.
And it does,
just messing by yourself. Like
for sure. And it doesn't even have to be the judge telling you, right? Like, I think where we're at in our education and what we can feel is going right or wrong, just putting yourself in that situation. You don't even have to like worry at first. I mean, of course, I'm a competitive person. Derek's a very competitive person. Like, you want to do well, but at first, like, just dipping your toes wet, like, how do you feel like you did in front? Like, you can't artificially make that kind of environment at home, you know?
Correct.
So even like, forget about what you scored, but how do you know how your horse normally performs? How did they perform when you're nervous and you're in front of a bunch of people? And like, how much do you got that going on?
How
when it's
well
on
did
the
you
line.
support them too? That's another
Yeah.
one, big one for people. Because
Yeah.
that's a whole different skill set than riding the horse, is like you being able to go and compete.
Yeah, I know I get like really nervous and so yeah, being able to support your horse and stay calm and show, like I've learned too, just not from doing, I guess, but I'm getting the understanding that like I ride a lot of colts, you know, and so I'm exaggerating things and nobody's watching me, and like showing is about showing off your horse, so you need to be almost invisible, you know. And so learning to ride and be aware of what you look like and quiet and try to make just everything really smooth. Not that that's not the goal, but when, you know, 90% of the time I'm riding colts and not everything is always super, you know,
You're taking
smallest
up
cue
all
for
5
everything.
lanes of the highway at the same time. And I know what you mean.
So, learning how to do that too, just be a showman as well as a horseman. That's another part of it that I'm definitely not familiar with.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
Yeah,
well, that'll be fun. And I mean, gosh, you guys are in I know like there's different parts of Oklahoma, but Oklahoma as a state, like, it seems like there's quite a bit going on there horse-wise. So if you take the time, there will be, I imagine there are the shows to go to. And like,
oddly enough, I feel like Oklahoma is kind of lacking, and like there's one pretty good place that does some shows pretty regular. I think they do one like once a month most of the year, so that's good.
Okay.
But like I just feel like they don't have it together as much as, like, you know, the Stock Horse of Texas deal is like huge, and they've really got it together.
Well,
and
so then why are all these like horse trainers in Oklahoma then? Because land is cheaper, I guess.
Yeah. Yes. It's affordable. Also, it's pretty central, you know. So I think Missouri also has some pretty decent shows, like stock horse shows up there. And we're pretty northern Oklahoma. Like we go down those shows I was talking about in Oklahoma are in Ardmore, which is pretty far south, but we go to those.
Gotcha.
And then I think it'd be almost about the same distance to go to like Joplin. I think there's some pretty good ones in there too. So pretty central.
Cool. Well, that'll be awesome. Yeah, this has been a really fun conversation. Like I said, I had been meaning to call you anyway, just to like talk about horses and like stuff like that. But I was, kind of going through my phone. I was like, who are we going to get on the podcast? And then your name popped up, and I was like, I know for a fact it's really easy to have a very interesting conversation with Zöe about horses.
Yeah, I can get on a tangent.
That's perfect. That's what we need. So yeah, I really appreciate you making time this evening to get on here with us, because it's you guys have a busy schedule. Like you guys run hard and fast, especially during the week. So
yeah, I got done put horse away like 15 minutes before I got on, so
nice.
I made it.
Heck yeah. Well, yeah, that's why I was running late too, because I was getting off my last horse, and all the horses were still in the barn, so I had to like turn out and everything, and like literally the heavens opened up. Like it was biblical. Just like the creek was all of a sudden 3 times wider and everything.
Oh my gosh!
And I was like, I know I gotta go, but I think I'm gonna sit in the barn here for about 20 minutes and like just
wait it out,
get caught up in that. Yeah, before I go home. So no, but it all worked out, and I'm sure he's somewhere there. But tell Derek I say hi.
I will. Yeah, it's always great talking. I love talking about horses with you, Joe. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna stop recording, but don't hang up just yet.